Well, hello again. I wanted to briefly uh, maybe warn buyers, especially those who are less knowledgeable in buying their first expensive wristwatch, particularly Rolex. More of a used one is what the ones I'm referring to. Is there is a seller based out of Texas. They are a big, huge seller. They've been around for a while, to their credit. They sell a lot of 80s and 90s models as well as newer and maybe slightly older. But I've looked at many watches that they have for sale both on eBay and on their website. And a lot of their watches have aftermarket generic bands, gold Jubilees, two-tone gold. And just Jubilees, and I seem to see more Jubilees, but I have seen I've seen a couple of the Oyster ones, and they also have some that have refurbished or reconditioned dials, repainted dials, and the crystals aren't original; they're generic replacements, and that lends into further questions of the movement if it's been serviced. And I think there's such a big Rolex reseller, used market reseller, and they've been around for a while. I think they have their own in-house watchmaker. If the movement needs service before they take in a watch and it needs to be serviced before they resell it, do they use original parts? And it seems like they use a lot of generic parts, so that gets into excuse me, the question of what's inside the movement when it was serviced, if it was serviced by them. So just to kind of a little bit of just to mention that more of a concern to those that think they're buying a genuine all original watch is read the fine print. And to their credit, they do add that in the description that the dial's been reconditioned or repainted or retouched up, and it's got a generic crystal, and the band is a generic replacement band. But it does raise the question: why are so many of their I'm looking at a couple of 1613s which were from the 80s, kind of that period, which are two tone date just, and you see a lot of them with generic jubilees, which are probably less around $100 or less. Matter of fact, they sell that on their site separately. So you got a generic Jubilee that's probably 10 karat gold, might be gold filled. For that price, it's going to be gold filled, which means it's just got a slightly thicker layer than plating of gold around the center Jubilee uh, of the band. And it's a little bit more durable than plating. Actually, it's a bit more durable because it's a thicker layer. But original Rolex bracelets were 14 karat or 18 karat real gold. They were not plated or coated or filled or whatever you want to call it in the jewelry industry. So the question becomes, what are they doing with? There's so many date justs I see with Jubilees, both stainless steel and two tone. Where do those Jubilees go? If you call up their customer service and ask these questions, I'm sure they'll say, well, they might say something like, well, we replace them due to stretch or them being unsafe for the wearer that would cause them the watch to fall off their wrist. But uh, I actually collect a lot of Jubilees from the 60s and 70s, and yes, they do stretch, but they can all be repaired. And I've very rarely do you see them let go like that. They just need to be checked out, and mostly like the spring pin needs to be changed, or that should be part of a. I think that should be part of any big sellers when they take it in. They should, and probably that's one of the few parts I don't have a problem with. That it can be like Swiss generic. You see a lot of the end link spring pins, and then the pin that goes on the clasp on the clasp that connects it. The spring bars, those are, you can get really good quality Swiss ones, and you're not seeing them. One and two, the Swiss ones tend to be just as good quality, fairly very very good quality to genuine. That's about as far as I would go. I mean, I always try to get, like on my watches, I go to the Rolex AD and they either have to order them, and I won't get generic, but I guess in a pinch, I mean that would be about the only thing. But when you start adding all these generic parts, then you charge, then you're charging the same price as seller B, C, and C, D, and E, who sells the same watch for the same price. I'm not understanding why they're trying to, try to ask the same price, and then when you try to make an offer, like on their eBay store, they're pretty they won't budge. So like for an example, I mean I'm looking at comparing a couple 1613 Datejust two tones, and they're asking at the top tier of that price range that others are selling them with Rolex branded bracelets. So that's the problem is when if you go to resell these watches after you're done with them. Let's say you have them for a couple years and go to resell them, that next person is going to notice that generic bracelet, and it's going to devalue the watch considerably because, like I don't know if I mentioned it, but if you were to take that bracelet off and sell it, you could get up to $2,000 for a decent two tone, or even a slightly stretched two tone Jubilee, and you can get up to up to 1,000 for a stainless steel Jubilee. And if it's a Submariner, band, the Submariner dive band with the dive clasp, you're looking at 2,000 easy on the used market for a fair condition one. That's what those parts sell for. That's just the nature of Rolex used parts. They're a high profit. They could be high profit. So I'm not trying to this, like I said, this seller is based out of Texas. They're a big seller with a long time standing, so obviously they must have some decent customer service. I've never bought anything from them because they've raised red flags with me years ago that I didn't like. My thing is, if you're going to sell a watch, it should be cheaper, considerably cheaper than one with the original bracelet. Because if I buy that watch and okay, so if it's a model I want, let's say it's a blue dial two tone 1613. If they're the only one that has one at the time and I can't find it anywhere else and I have to pay what the average going price is, I then I got to go out and source out a genuine band aftermarket if I can find one on eBay, which is then you gotta that's a whole other minefield right there. But let's say I find from a reputable seller who has a two-tone Datejust band for that particular model. I forget the reference, like 6253 H18 or something like that, representing the 18 karat gold. If I find that model and he's a reputable seller and it's as described with mild stretch, that's going to run me 1,500, oftentimes 2,000, up to $2,000, anywhere from that, and like I said, a little bit less for stainless steel. So I as the buyer would expect to pay almost close to that much less, but they won't budge on their prices. They are asking the same exact price as others, and I can compare a lot of the ones that they have with other sellers that are selling the exact same color dial, same model, same year, same around the same year serial number for the same price. I'm not getting it. And there's been a couple other YouTubers, watch YouTubers that have mentioned or accusations that they have mentioned that they think that they're taking in these watches. They're buying in from whoever decides to sell to them, and they yank the bracelet off and sell it second hand through another venue that doesn't identify them directly as who they are, and they're making a couple thousand or up to a couple thousand on these second parts. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but that's what was mentioned in the other couple other videos that I've seen. So I don't know what it is, but it is suspicious that a lot of their used watches have all generic aftermarket $100, around $100, like 10 karat gold filled generic replacement bands. I mean, that, like I said, that's you should be able to get that watch for that much less. So kind of a nice scenario they got going on there if that's what they're doing, where they're taking in watches, stripping the band off and selling it through another source. That would maximize their profit margin on that piece they took in. Again, that's not what I'm saying they're doing, but it does lend to the question of where the original bands are going, because there are specialists who now because vintages are so expensive and being original is such a high consideration, especially if you go to resell it later on down the road. Collectors want it all original, and they're sending these bands off to these people who specialize in dismantling the whole band and repinning them. Yes, they're not using genuine Rolex pins, but they're probably 316 L stainless steel, which is back in the older vintage vans up to the mid 80s. That's what Rolex used anyway. So if they're using good quality Swiss replacement parts, you're getting a band back that's like brand new almost with the tight feeling, no stretch, and it's safer to wear. But like I said, even though they may say that they're doing it for safety or stretch, even I expect some stretch on an 80s. I expect a lot of stretch actually, but that doesn't mean it's going to fall off your wrist or it's a dangerous situation. So just a cautious watch out is my recommendation if you're first. And I think they are the type of seller that appeals to more first-time buyers. But there are other sellers out there like Bob's Watches and HQ Milton who actually they sell pieces that seem to be with all the original bracelets, and they seem to be don't you don't see generic parts on there like you do with it. And then, also, not to mention that this one has a lot of refinished dials, which collectors can't really stand. They're either repainted to whatever degree, I'm not sure. I mean, if you're reapplying the whole paint and text, which can be done, that's for collectors. That's a no-no. Or the lume plop. So some will take the vintage tritium lume, patinaed lume, and remove it and replace it with super luminova or even Swiss service dials. And that, for collectors, they want it as original as possible. And if it's not original, they want to be able to pay less to justify the cost. Not the same as another seller who is selling the same piece that's all original in good condition for the same price. It just doesn't make sense. So just to watch out for those first-time watch buyers buying such an expensive item, luxury item, used like a used Rolex. Even though they seem like a big vendor who's been around for a long time with a return policy, I'd still, in my opinion, I'd be very cautious buying off of them and do your comparisons. Okay, thanks.